Finishes are meant to end a match in wrestling's kayfabe world, but when they're performed wrong or taken wrong, they can lead to real-life injuries. Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 12 wrestlers who were injured by finishing moves. Number 1. Hulk Hogan by The Undertaker's tombstone. Hulk Hogan was still going strong back in 1991, but not even the power of Hulkamania could save him from The Undertaker when they met at Survivor Series for Hogan's WWF Championship. During the match, the real world's champion Ric Flair slid a steel chair into the ring, which Taker conveniently used to piledrive Hogan's head onto, winning the match and his first WWE Championship. In his memoir Hollywood Hulk Hogan, the Hulkster recalls that wasn't the only thing that The Undertaker did. He also screwed up my neck something fierce. It wasn't his fault, he took care of me and made sure my head didn't hit the mat. But the jolt of my neck being stretched like that sent me right into the hospital. I was in there for a couple of days. Everybody wanted to fuse the discs of my neck together, but I decided against it. It would be years before I got all the feeling back in my arms. Whilst Hogan believes he was injured by this move, both The Undertaker and Paul Bearer disagree and have disputed his claim. In fact, when you look at the footage, you can see that Hogan's head barely hits the chair, yet it seems after the match, he still sells like death. Still, this is Hogan's account and we're counting it on the list. Number 2. Marty Gagne from A Pedigree by Triple H. While the pedigree looks like an easy move to take, one wrestler's unfamiliarity with it nearly cost him his ability to walk. In 1996, enhancement talent Marty Gagne, who began wrestling in the Hardy Boys Omega promotion, found himself wrestling Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and at the end of the match, Helmsley hit his finisher, the pedigree. Gagne reportedly had never taken the move before and mistook the pedigree for a double underhook suplex, jumping up and landing hard on his head. According to another report, Gagne misjudged the move, threw out his legs, did not prepare for the impact on the mat, and ended up throwing himself onto his head and neck, resulting in a spinal contusion. Even though video clearly shows the error was on Gagne, he still chose to pursue a lawsuit against the organization for his injuries. Gagne and the company settled a dispute out of court. Nevertheless, despite injury and lawsuit, Gagne returned to the WWE in 2006. Number 3. The Big Show from a Powerbomb by Kevin Nash. Paul White, aka The Big Show, was still working in WCW as The Giant when he battled Kevin Nash at 1998's sold-out pay-per-view. There, Kevin Nash hit his powerbomb finisher, but had difficulty lifting his opponent, who Nash claims had gained considerable weight since last performing the move on him. The Giant narrowly avoided a broken neck, but was still injured, and the injury was incorporated into a storyline where Nash's powerbomb was banned. Number 4. Ricky Steamboat, a DDT by Jake Roberts. In 1987, Jake Roberts was in a heated feud with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and in order to turn up the heat on their feud, Steamboat requested to Jake that he execute the DDT finisher on bare concrete outside the ring. Jake heavily advised against it, believing that Steamboat wouldn't put his hands up in time to protect his head. But after much protest from Vince McMahon and Booker George Scott, Jake begrudgingly agreed to do the spot. When it came time to do it, Jake's prediction unfortunately came true, as Steamboat did not lift up his hands in time and was knocked out cold as his head bounced off the concrete. Jake lifted up a limp Steamboat in the ring as medics rushed down to the ring to stretcher him out. As a result, Steamboat would suffer a concussion and a black eye. Ironically, the man who disingenuously told wrestlers to trust him should have taken the advice on that occasion. Number 5. Tyson Kidd from a Muscle Buster by Samoa Joe. On 1st June 2015, Tyson Kidd wrestled Samoa Joe in a dark match that led to disaster. Kidd had never wrestled Joe before, but the match went well until Joe hit his finisher, the Muscle Buster, and Kidd saw a flash of white light. He was briefly paralyzed, but somehow knew his neck had been broken. Kidd reveals the injury was even worse than he imagined when he learned, "I didn't fracture my neck, I didn't break it, but technically it's actually worse. The ligament holding the C2 ruptured, so my disc hit my spinal cord. That's what caused the temporary paralysis. You don't have to sever your spine cord to be paralyzed for life. You could just touch it and be paralyzed for life. There are different situations, obviously." Kidd and his wife, WWE superstar Natalya, advocated strongly until he got the best medical care, but Kidd recalls how a doctor told him of the gravity of his injury. She said, "You have a very similar injury to Christopher Reeve, and the truth is your C2 is what controls your breathing. When you hit your spinal cord, you should have suffocated to death right there." She said 5% of people survive this injury, and of the 5 who do, 99% are paralyzed. Kidd ultimately recovered after surgery and intensive rehabilitation, and while he can no longer wrestle, he works with the WWE as a producer. Kidd says there is no heat with Samoa Joe despite the injury. Number 6. Plum Mariko from a Liger Bomb. Plum Mariko was only 29 years old when she died after taking a Liger Bomb during a tag team match, slipping into a coma and dying the next day. Sadly, the death might have been prevented as Mariko had suffered a number of concussions and was reportedly showing signs of traumatic brain injury such as memory problems and severe headaches. Nonetheless, she chose to continue wrestling and at the time was suffering from a brain abscess, which ultimately killed her. Mariko became the first Japanese wrestler to die from in-ring injuries, but sadly, she would not be the last. Number 7. Droz from a running powerbomb by D'Lo Brown. Darren Drozdov was only 30 years old when he suffered a career-ending injury during a SmackDown taping on 5th October 1999 when opponent D'Lo Brown applied his running powerbomb finisher, but things went awry due to Droz wearing a loose shirt that prevented Brown from getting a strong grip and Droz not jumping correctly to help Brown hit the move. The result was fractured vertebrae that rendered him a quadriplegic. In a 2014 interview with Jim Ross, Droz talked about the accident. "I have no hard feelings towards D'Lo because shit happens and everyone who gets involved in athletics, including WWE, knows the risks that exist. It was an accident." Droz, who maintains an active lifestyle with the help of friends, family and a medical team, is keeping a positive attitude. "I had to start my life over after the accident and I've grown to realize that I'm still very much alive. I'm far from dead." Number 8. Henry O. Godwin from a Doomsday Device by LOD. The Doomsday Device, performed by the legendary tag team the Legion of Doom, really has to be one of the most dangerous moves in professional wrestling. If you're unfamiliar with it, wrestlers are hoisted onto animals' shoulders with Hawk flying in with a clothesline. The only problem is all the work in the move depends on the wrestler backflipping onto the mat. Landing safely is another aspect, as of course the heavier the man, the more difficult it would be to execute the move. This was a problem that Henry O. Godwin found out the hard way. During a match with LOD on Raw, the almost 300-pound Godwin was hoisted up in the air but landed right on his neck, breaking his C7 vertebrae. Even though he suffered a serious injury, Godwin admitted he didn't take enough time off. The doctor said it was a clean break. "He told me to lay around for 10 weeks and ice it, but 6 weeks went by and I was back on the road, lifting weights and getting back in the ring too soon. I wrestled for 7 weeks with a broken neck." So it seems that Kurt Angle wasn't the only one who wrestled with a broken freaking neck. Number 9. Chuck Austin from a rocker dropper. On 11th December 1990, Chuck Austin talked his way into a match backstage as Lanny Poffo's tag team partner for a match against the Rockers. Despite only having 6 months of training and having worked a few bouts, Austin presented himself as someone ready to wrestle. However, when Austin took the Rockers' finisher, the rocker dropper, he landed wrong on his neck, breaking it. Austin claimed he told Marty Jannetty he couldn't move, yet Jannetty rolled him over so Michaels could jump off the top rope for the pinfall. According to an article at Ring the Damn Bell, Austin damaged his C4, C5 and C6 vertebrae, as well as extensive damage to his nervous system. Austin sued the WWF, claiming neither Lanny Poffo nor the Rockers asked him what moves he was comfortable with. Austin also alleged the WWF had no doctors or trainers on site, resulting in a long wait to receive medical care. Bruno Sammartino and enhancement talent Rusty Brooks testified for Austin and a jury ruled in his favor, with Austin getting a $27 million verdict. He had originally sued for only $3 million. The case was ultimately settled for $10 million and Marty Jannetty was ordered to pay $1.5 million. Number 10. Brian Kendrick from a GTS by Hideo Itami. As CM Punk isn't the only superstar to use the go-to-sleep finisher, with Hideo Itami using it too. During the 25th December 2017 Raw, Itami performed the GTS on Brian Kendrick, but something went wrong and Kendrick suffered a broken nose and orbital bone, missing 2 months of action. Hideo left the WWE in 2019 and is currently performing in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Number 11. Triple H from a 5-star frog splash by RVD. At 2002 Survivor Series, Rob Van Dam, amongst several other superstars, was wrestling Triple H in the first ever Elimination Chamber match when RVD hit his 5-star frog splash on the game, accidentally landing on Triple H's neck with his knees. According to Triple H, the doctors were concerned that he injured his trachea and kept him overnight because they were concerned his throat might swell up, choking him to death. The cerebral assassin recalled how close he came to the end. 10 or 20 pound weight on you from a few feet in the air and it hits you on the throat, it could crush your windpipe and kill you instantly. For me, the doctor said it was a lot of things. Rob tried to protect me as best he could. I rolled with the shot, my neck's very thick from training it. All those things protected me and a bit of luck too. Like many of the injured wrestlers on our list, Triple H doesn't blame RVD for what happened. Number 12, Savio Vega from a nightmare pendulum. Savio Vega has been wrestling since the late 80s and he's still going strong. Back in the summer of 2019, Vega wrestled National Openweight Champion Alexander Hammerstone when Vega seems to have missed time taking Hammerstone's finisher. According to an article at Pro Wrestling Sheet, during the final moments of the match, Savio hit his head on an exposed turnbuckle before Hammerstone hit his finisher called the Nightmare Pendulum to win the match. However, Vega's legs clearly didn't make a full rotation while taking the move and they crushed underneath him on the mat. MLW says Vega lost movement in his legs and barely avoided a compound fracture of his right lower leg in the moment. Vega has since returned to wrestling, but if you watch him take the finisher, you'd swear his legs should have snapped. But there you have it guys, 12 times wrestlers were injured by finishers. Be sure to leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.